Good evening, race fans, and welcome to weekend number 7 of the Herd Summer Racing League. Tonight, we bring you sheer and utter carnage. We have 18 laps of downtown Dolphin in Crit City. Each lap is about 1.93 kilometres in length, and we'll see a total of 35.3 kilometres. There will be a sprint on every single of one of the 18 laps. The first one will be at 0.8 kilometers, and then around about 2 kilometers after for the next 17. Tonight, as ever, joined by Gordon Sloan and also by Ed Finney. Gordon will be following our featured racer in the D's. Gordon, how's it looking?
It's looking not bad. So tonight we'll be following Jack Mayer in the D's, which the D pen's filling up nicely. Nearly 30 riders at the moment, with about 50 seconds to go. So we'll see how we get on there. There's a good showing from the herd. There must be 6 or 7 riders in the pen, which quite a few other riders. So interesting one tonight. 18 primes, which are technically KOMs, but they're more of a sprint effort. I believe it's probably only about 15 seconds to get up that hill, 15, 20 seconds maybe. So certainly worth going for the primes tonight. It will just be an interesting one to see how they all play out. But we've got about 20 seconds to go. See if we maybe get 1 or 2 more riders in the pen just before we start, and then I suspect 18 laps of carnage is what we'll find out. With the 5-minute gaps between the various categories, they'll just be give it a few laps. I suspect there'll be riders in groups all over the place grouping up. Just watch Jack here as he leads out the pen with 0, and we should be off. See how much of a start we go. And we can see a couple of riders really smashing it out the pen at the moment. A couple off the front, if it's a plan to get away, but the rest of the group here is just chilling out the pen. Not too bad. 2, 2.5, 3, nothing too crazy. I think now we're in round 7 of the series. Everyone's beginning to learn how much the primes are worth, so they're not going too crazy at the start, but I can see Jack's just settled in nicely to this little group. There's a few individual riders off the front, but I suspect they'll either burn out if they're just riding for GC or stick with this group and see how we get on. But looking good so far. Who are we following in other categories there, James?
In just over 4 minutes' time, we'll be seeing how Ben Poynton gets on. Ben's as far as CCAT goes, he's mid-range, but as one of the heavier riders, he pulls out big watts, and I think on a flat course like this, he's going to be very well suited if we were going for GC. He's also got a decent sprint on him, so see if he can do it 18 times. We will see. Gordon, you've got to be close to the first one already. They're so close together.
Well, not quite, but we're getting towards there. I mean, it's not far. I think the first sprint's only about 0.8 of a kilometre in, so we've just gone over the sort of first, as I say, hill on this course. There's not really many hills on this course, but we're rolling round and we round the corner in a minute. Looking at the stats on Swift Power, I think Jack is one of the stronger ones. So I'm expecting good things for him on the sprint. We'll see how we're getting on. He's got a nice group. I mean, there must be about 10, 15 riders in this group. There is still a group of maybe 2 or 3 off the front. So, as I said, I suspect the front group will maybe just be playing for the GC. I can see Jax. He's hitting the sprint early. He's going even before the start of the KM, but he's pushing out the watts 4, 5, 5.5, holding 5.5 all up the sprint. He's actually catching that front group, so whether that will be an advantage as well. But see another rider. It looks like a rider on a TT bike's coming past him here, but he's still holding a good power, 4 or 5 watts all the way up to the top of the sprint. And we're just about past the KYM banner, so let's see if we can get a few times. So on the board, he is shown as second place in 21.49, behind one other rider who doesn't appear to be on Swift Power. So I reckon Jack might have won that first sprint. We'll see how he gets on in the later laps, although it'll be a bit hard to tell. Unfortunately, we can't see the sprints per lap, so it'll be an interesting one, and a lot of it will depend on the primes at the end of the day. But looks like he's slowed up now, playing the game, waiting for the group behind him to catch, as there's absolutely no point pushing on to try and catch the next group. But at the moment, they're about 2 minutes 20, so they're not quite going to get 2 full laps in before the next group comes out. But given 5 or 6 laps into this, I suspect it'll just be carnage anyway, with riders all over the place, with a mixture of some going for GC, some going for sprint. It'll be interesting to see how they all play this out. But at the moment, it looks like Jack's won the first sprint, and he's just chilling, waiting for the group behind to catch him up. And the next sprint will come round soon enough, I would have thought. Yeah, back to you, James.
Thank you. So I'm fully expecting in round about 2 minutes' time for us to have absolutely no idea what's going on at all, and probably having no idea what lap we're even on. But we will do our best. Ed Finney, who are you following tonight?
Tonight I'm going to be following Derek Armadurna. Derek is actually a Cat C, but he has decided to jump into the B range because he's right on that hairy edge of a B rider, and decided that maybe he'd rack up some points in B. And looking at the stats, he's a 3.4 watt per kilogram, which isn't huge for a B cat rider. But when you look at overall power, he's got the highest 20-minute wattage in the field. Plus, he has the highest 15-second wattage in the whole field. So I think he's going to do pretty well. A couple of the guys that are just entering the B cat, they've moved themselves up from C, are actually very powerful guys. They may not have huge watts per kilogram, but we know on these flat courses, watts is watts, and if these guys can hang in there, they should easily be able to hold on with some of these other guys. I do notice that New Heights is in here, so that particular racer is extremely strong. So we'll have to keep an eye on him. As you said, James, as soon as this race starts with two other cats out there, it's just going to be a great big giant flurry of cyclists, and we're going to lose track of who's where. Hopefully, we can kind of get an idea, and if they're making their primes or not. But we'll see. You should be coming up here. 10 seconds, James. It's all yours.
Yeah, 10 seconds to go. And just very quickly on New Heights, he's an exceptionally light rider, so think he may struggle on the primes. We are go for Cat C, and Ben's already off to pushing now 500 watts to try and hang on to the front. Now, we've already discussed this at great length before this broadcast. Gordon and I definitely feel that hammering the primes is the way to go. GC, you're going to see realistically 25, 30 riders on Zwift Power. So the spread on GC is going to be 450 down to 420 points at the end of a race. Whereas there are 900 points on offer for the primes. So I think certainly my tactic would be ignore the field and just do anything you can on the prime. Gordon, where are the D's at the moment? They hit the second one now.
They have hit the second one, so Jack didn't particularly hit that second one very hard, so he's actually been dropped from the main group. He's now 15, 16 seconds down from the main GC group, currently sitting about 15th out of 28. So, as you suggest there, I wouldn't really be worried by that. Even if you drop 10 or 15 places over the course of 18 sprints, you can easily catch up 10 or 15 points on even 1 point per sprint will close that gap. So I wouldn't be worried about it. Hopefully he's just doing a tactical race and eased up a bit, saving himself for the sprints. But at the moment he's just cruising around here, 1718. Nothing particularly fast. Hopefully
just going to jump in very quickly, Gordon, for the first sprint in the seas, and they are just hitting it now. Ben is holding around mid 400s, 500. Looks like he's not going all out sprint. Oh, maybe he is a bit further down. Now into the 600 watt range, pushing hard, but there's definitely some big numbers off the front. And we've got some of the times coming in. Got one of the ATP. We've got Jonathan B at 18.3. Ben's down in 9th, but there are 18 of these things. So if he can do 600 watts up all of them, I think he's going to end up pretty well. But we're going to see how things play out. He's currently third in GC. There's a little bit of a gap up to the ATP rider, 3 seconds up the road, and M is 7 seconds up the road as well. But it's going to get split up fairly quickly as we go over the rollers. Going to have to see how people play this. I would certainly be taking it very, very easy between the sprints, but it's looking like Ben's pretty keen to try and stay in the group and see what sort of carnage you can cause from there. What's going on with these?
These are still cruising around, so Jack now, I mean, the gap's probably gone into 30, 40 seconds, so he's just cruising around at a nice pace at the moment. Hopefully we'll see him sprint in about probably another 30 seconds before he hits the bottom of the sprint, and then we'll see. I'm not even quite sure what group's going to catch him first. Obviously, normally it'll be the C groups that would catch him, but the way we're doing laps here, I suspect it might actually be the A group that comes flying up behind him first. So at the moment, the groups are sort of held together, but as I said, give it a few laps. I think there'll be all sorts of categories all over the place. But will be coming around the corner and sprinting in the moment. So we'll just see if he's going to hit that, make a bit of an effort. As I said, first sprint, I reckon he got first place. Hard to tell in the second one, but he didn't appear to put out too much of an effort on the sprint. So maybe lost out on a few points there. But with 18 to go, plenty of points to pick up. So we'll just give him a second as he's approaching the sprint corner round in a moment and see if he's going to hit it. I can see him ramping up, certainly 3-4 watts now. So, and he's definitely going now. He's definitely going to hit it, 3-4 watts. See if we can try and compare. He's probably never going to beat his time from the first lap, so it's going to be hard to tell exactly how good his sprint is, but he's certainly pushing up this hill. 4 watts, 5 watts a kilo up this hill at the moment. As I said, not quite the same as the first one, but definitely grabbed a few more points there. But how are the C's looking? Are they coming round? Are they going to catch the D's anytime soon?
We've gone past a couple of D's already. I think we're about 50 to 100 metres off the next sprint. Coming around the corner, just hitting it now. A few arrows being thrown down. Ben's back in. Well, he's going at about 700 watts this time. High sixes. Definitely looking like he's having a bit more. Well, he had a good go first time round, but he's looking like he's going even harder this time round. See if he improves his time. Our survey says still 19.69 is the best time. I'm a little bit surprised because it looked like he put down more power that time round, but he hasn't managed to improve. And still seeing his PB as 19.69. But M. Fuller has thrown down the gauntlet with a mid 15-second time. Ed Finney, half the B's left.
And we're off. And looks like Derek's throwing down 7 watts per kilo, trying to get out towards the front of this group. It is a big field of bees today. There's at least 9 herd members, along with a virtual plethora of other riders. So should be a good race. Derek's up near the front, and let's see if he can kind of hang in the draft here and see what happens. Again, it's a pretty flat race, like you say. And I agree with you on the GC or the Prime. The GC, heck, even if there's 30, you're going to get, the worst case is 420 points, or maybe every 2, but 400 points. So it makes sense to go after the primes on these events. So we'll see what happens, see how they throw down as they start winding their way through this course. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. I'm particularly glad to see today the lap counters working because of the way that we follow riders. We're not able to see what lap they're on and how far they've got left to go. I mean, obviously we know it's just over 35 kilometers for the race, but we're not able to see how many laps they have to go. So if you're racing the race, you'll be able to see it on your heads-up display that how many laps you've got left to go, but we're not able to see that information. So definitely very happy to see that information on the lap counter. So, Gordon, I think we're still a lap and a bit behind. We're at 4.5 kilometers. How far ahead of the D's?
Oh, here we go.
We're on the hill. We go, Ed.
Ed there.
Yep. Derek's pushing out 7 watts a kilo, comes through. Szymanski takes it first, 16:12. Derek came in 9th of the 18:51. So nice run for him. Still hanging up there with the kind of the lead group. But now we're back on the flat, so we'll cruise around this thing till we, hit that 17 more times. James?
Just hitting the sprint in the seeds again for the third time. Ben's putting out. He's going harder this time. He's looking at 600, 800 watts. Going pretty hard. Pushing out 7 watts a kilo at the moment, and over the line for the third time. And his fastest time is still 19.69. So I suspect, looking at his power numbers, his times are very consistent. So he's going to be getting good points every single lap, and that's what's going to be important. As we've said, that the your finishing points are going to be between 450 and 420. So there's only a 30 point split there. However, if you can get 5 points on your competitors every single lap, then that's going to clock up fairly quickly. Gordon, how about the D's?
So Jack's just followed the B's and the C's there through the sprint. So again, he put a bit of an effort, certainly went for the sprint. Not really sure where he came, but he was sort of pushing 3 to 4 watts up that sprint. He is a bit riding alone at the moment. There's a group of C's that came past him, but he doesn't really have any more riders around him at the moment. What we've probably found is the front D's have gone away from them, and the faster C's are starting to pass. So whether he manages to group up, although realistically on this course, there's not really much need to group up. You might as well just wait and then save it for the sprint. Even the draft through the sprint will only have a limited effect as it is uphill and so short. But at the moment, he's cruising around very nicely, 1.2, 1.4, so he's taking it really easy here at the moment. He's coming around towards the line at about 7.5 kilometres in. So I believe that what's this, about lap 4 we must be on here. I'm losing count already. But no, he's cruising around looking absolutely fine. Not got any group with him at the moment though, and as I said, it's probably not worth looking for a group, to be honest, in this course when you're just going for the primes. But yeah, how far are the C's, or the front C's? Where's Ben?
So we are looking to be around about 2.5 kilometres behind the front Ds. However, the front two Ds are both out of category. So we're looking at Michael Muscat, who's the lead D. He's also at 8.5k. So looking at just over a lap behind at the moment still, and just looking at the mini map, I can see all sorts of different colours, apart from the A's who haven't left yet. So we can see B's, we can see C's, we can see D's. Everyone's going to be very mixed up. But however, Ben is still in a group of, I think it's actually probably the top eight or nine C riders. So he's obviously decided to try for GC as well as try hard on the primes. And just speaking of that, he's on the climb again now. Again, holding 700 watts, doing a good job throwing down the aero power up over the line again. For the fourth time, fastest time is still 90.69. So I suspect he's probably not going to beat his first lap time. But just coming back to the point I was making, so Ben's obviously trying to play GC game as well as going for the sprints. Now, my personal take on that is he's going to expend a lot of energy trying to hang in the group. Now, if the group is running at a relatively okay pace for him, then that's fine. But if he's going on the threshold for 35 kilometers with 18 sprints, he's going to die, quite frankly, as would most people. From my own experience, if I'm going at threshold, I've got no sprint at the end. So having to do that 18 times, I would have absolutely no chance. So I would personally be looking at going around this route in about 1.5 watts a kilo and just trying to put out 10 watts for every sprint. However, everyone's their own. It could work out for Ben, and we'll obviously find out after a race, because we're going to have absolutely no clue what's going on in about 5 minutes' time. Gordon.
Oh, I think I'm absolutely agree with you there. I don't think there's too much point hammering it down just going for GC, because the difference that you're going to make on 1 or 2 points on GC, or even 5 or 10, you can certainly lose or catch up on the sprints. So definitely I think B primes will be my plan when I race this, and I think the smart racers here will probably notice that as well. So it depends how the front group's going. If they're not hammering it out the gate and sort of going at a decent pace, then you might as well stick with them and gain 1 or 2 GC points. But you're certainly going to make sure you've got enough effort to hit the primes pretty hard. But back on the Jack, so it looked like he hit that sprint quite a bit stronger, sort of 4 to 5 watts a kilo. So he probably just learned and went a bit easier around the lap, ready to hit the sprint. So he's looking good. I reckon he probably got some good points on that one. I'll need to try and catch him with the front D group and see how they're actually hitting the sprints, because at the moment it's so hard to tell just watching one rider to see how he's comparing to the rest. So that is a tricky problem at the moment. Just I suppose it'll be the same for every rider out in the course. They've just no idea how they are doing compared to the rest. So it will be very confusing and carnage, as everyone suggests. But yeah, not too bad. I suppose, Ed, how are the bees looking?
Oh, they're looking good. Derek's hanging out with kind of the front groups, getting a little strung out. They just PR'd their lap time. Derek also did improved his sprint time by a second. So right now he's at 17:07 up that hill. So he's looking pretty good, but he is, as you said, he might have a difficulty. Right now he's got the highest watt average out there at 344. It's a 3.5, and his 20-minute best is 3.4. So he's pushing hard, and that's likely going to take its toll on the length of this race. We're only on lap 3, or complete lap 3, fourth lap, and it's going to be a tough one for him to hang here. He's just at the tail end of this front group, and hopefully he can keep the draft as we come up around the corners, and that he's been throwing out 750, 800 watts on those climbs. And again, with 18 laps with that, he's got 14 more to go. It's going to be a little a bit of a tongue wagger near the end of this thing. So we'll see how it all pans out. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. Ben is still sticking together with front group, and it looks like the front group are all doing pretty. I'd say the front probably 6, 7, 8 are all doing the same thing. We're all going along at a moderate pace, and then hammering the sprints. So they are just coming under the lap banner, and our good friend the lap counter is going to tick down to 13 to go. So Ben's doing great. Its sprints are looking decent, and just a quick check on Zwift Power Live. Got the front C's at 9.6 and the front D's at 11.9. So still a little bit over a 1 lap lead. So when this group do catch up to the front D's, I strongly expect the front couple of D's to be able to hang on. So we will see how long we're able to hang on for. But it's looking all right so far for Ben. Gordon, back to the D's.
So Jack's he's hammering up this sprint again. He's dropped down the truck power up. By the look of it, he's got a rider, an ATP rider right in front of him. Looks like a CCAT rider, so maybe give him a wee bit of a boost up that hill. But again, he was looking to put out good numbers. I don't know. Looking at the overall, he's shown his 5th overall on the board, so maybe 1 or 2 of the other D riders might have bumped up their best sprint yet. But he was certainly putting out good numbers there, 4 or 5 watts. But he doesn't really have anyone with him now that the D riders have gone off in front of him. And as I said, there's not really any point chasing down these C riders, even though they're only marginal faster. We're seeing a few Bs coming through. It looks like probably the front end of Bs. I mean, they're doing high sort of 3 watts per kilo, 4 watts even at a push. So he's not going to jump on this group, and I wouldn't advise him to jump on this group. But he's doing good. He's now sitting in 19th out of 28th. So as I said, although 19th is fine, even if he's dropped 19 points on GC over 18 sprints, he can certainly catch that back up to a lot of riders. And what you'll probably find, there'll be some riders that aren't in Zwift Power. There's 1 or 2 that are maybe in the wrong category. So overall, looking on Zwift Power, if I can just find out where he is, he's showing as 13th at the moment, but 3 or 4 of them will be out of the way. So he's probably running about 10th. And if he can gain maybe even as much as 5 or 6 places on the sprints, if people aren't racing for them, it looks like he'll have a good result. But yeah, looking fine for the moment as he's coming round towards the lap banner. I'm just trying to work out what lap he is actually on, but he's at 11.6 kilometers as he just comes under the line here. Lap banner, it looks like 13. And are we counting down the way? Yep, so he's down to 12 at the moment. So going well, looking good, and it looks like he's just saved himself for the next sprint.
Thanks, Gordon. So we are at 11.5 kilometers, and we are just about swing round for the lap banner. And I think this will probably, after we've gone underneath, show 12 laps to go, I think. Now, the big question is it showing the right number? I think it is. So we've got 12 laps to go. And we are picking up some of the back marker Ds. And Ben is still hanging on to this front group. Certainly noticed that the sprints aren't quite the sort of 700, 800 watts that we were seeing earlier in the race. And I suspect the same is true for the rest of the guys in this group as well, because they're still bunching up again pretty quickly. Although we are starting to see some gaps, and I think we've got a group of 4 just off the front now. So I'm not sure if these guys are going to be able to catch back up again, but we'll see how it pans out. But looks like we've got front 4 breaking off a bit now. Ed, what's going on with the Bs? Is there any signs of a break in there?
Looks like Derek's still hanging in 8th up here with the lead group of Bs. He just for the 4th time beat his climb up the hill. So each time he's gone around that thing, he's bettered his time. So he's at 16:55 from an original 18:14. So very impressive. He's playing it right. He's using his power ups. He's starting a little bit earlier on those sprints. and it's paying well. The group just PR the lap time again as we round it out, and it looks like we've got about 13 laps to go. Back to you.
Thanks, Ed. How about the D's, Gordon?
So Jack's just hit another sprint, or KOM as we call it. He's not bad. He's pushed up that hill, but you can see the fatigue started to kick in. It was maybe only sort of 3.5 watts, but certainly plenty of other riders flying past him as well, and all sorts of power ups getting thrown down. Everyone's obviously seen the power ups for that sprint section. There's not really much use for anything else, but again, he doesn't have anyone really with him. He's got a couple of Ds, maybe 14, 15 seconds back now, but again, he's just eased up nicely after the gap, which probably looking more back at the league now. Jack at the moment is sitting in 12th place after 6 races, so he's doing fairly well. Looking at this league table here, there's actually 1 or 2 at the top of the league that have been promoted, so I suspect Jack will be looking to hit into the top 10 after tonight, and that certainly looks possible. But at the moment, yeah, I mean, he's cruising back. He's down even below 1 watt per kilo there, which for a competitive D rider is quite comfortable. So I think he's playing this perfectly. Just cruising around, hitting the sprints, seeing what power ups. Obviously, you get a power up every lap as well, so that will make a difference for the sprint times. But with such a short sprint, and everyone will be looking for that further power up. But not too bad at the moment. What sort of distance of the seas are they approaching? I suppose they must
We are just going under the lap banner, and we have 11 to go. Ben's probably hitting sort of tempo at the moment, maybe high endurance, low tempo, probably holding around about 2 watts a kilo most of the lap, with some little spurts up towards about 3.0. But it's looking like this group has settled in. They've got a couple of Bs in there with them as well. I can see Paul Chacaro's in there. So trying to see, we've got an ATP rider in there as well. No other names I really recognise. Lisa Jones is about 13 seconds up the road. But we are 14 kilometres in. We have about now 10.5 laps to go. So I suppose that means we've done about 7 laps. These kilometres are ticking over very, very, very quickly. It's very fast pace, considering that they're holding about 2 watts a kilo at the moment. Still holding around about 39, 40 kilometres an hour. Haven't seen much in the way of red dots as of yet. There's a couple on there, but I haven't seen many A riders so far. But we are, I think, just about to hit another sprint, so we'll just stick with it until that happens. So just taking the sprint now, see what sort of power Ben's able to put out. We're looking at 400, 500, 600, so he's still putting out the numbers. So looking like the race plan is still working out relatively well. So whereas earlier on he was definitely pushing hard to stay in the front group, or at least harder, but he's still pushing fairly hard on the sprints. Ed, what's going on?
Yeah, are we here? Yeah, the B riders are heading up towards that sprint KOM, whatever we want to call it. It looks like Derek's sitting in about 12th position.
Well, so he fluctuates here and there. Again, he's been improving his overall sprint here. He's starting earlier. I can see him. He's up out of the saddle. I see power. Everybody's throwing power ups. Like Gordon said, what are you going to do with them? It doesn't matter what you have. Throw it out there. So he's doing real well. Looks like he maybe he may have won that sprint on that route. Didn't improve his time any, but still moved past a lot of riders coming through that zone. So hopefully that racks up some good points for him as he continues around this thing. He's still got 12 or 13 laps to go. I'm confused. But it's a long race, boy. I'm getting tired just watching this thing. I can't imagine how these riders are. Back to you, James.
I'm getting a little bit tired too, Ed, but it is midnight, so I've got a slightly better excuse than you. But we have 10 laps to go here in the seas. Watching Benjamin Poynton, he is currently in 5th place, now 6th in the seas. We will, before too long, have sprint number 8, I think. might even be 9, but I think it's 8. We're at 15.8 kilometers. We've done 131 meters of climbing, and we are 23 minutes into this race. Very quick check on Zwift Power to see what the gaps are looking like. So we've got the front D, who is actually a C, so we're not going to talk about him. So front legitimate D is John Richardson at 16.9k, and then we have our front C at 15.9. So only a kilometre away for the front Cs. Ben's group is about another 300 meters back. So I would expect us to catch up probably in about 4 or 5 laps time. Unfortunately, unlike the Formula One, I don't have a fancy little thing on my screen that tells me how many laps it's going to take to catch up, so it's complete and absolute guess. But I am digressing. Let's switch back to Gordon and find out what's going on with these.
I mean, not massively much has happened. Jack's just hit round the banner for lap 10. I believe Ben's group probably actually passed him just about on that last sprint. So again, Jack finds himself riding alone at the moment, although he's still looking good. Looking at the Ds, I can see other ones there. Looks now the front D appears to be John Richardson as well, also from the herd, well-known rider, and then the top 10 racing for the racing league here. So it'll be interesting though. John, looking at Zwift Power, actually doesn't appear to be going for the sprints. What is quite interesting, if anyone's familiar with Zwift Power Live, it actually shows your normalized power as well. So you can kind of see which riders are hitting the sprints and which riders are not. So it's an interesting view just to try and work out who's actually going for the primes or not. But certainly Jack seems to be playing it perfectly, riding around, just hitting the sprints. He's probably only doing between 1.5, maybe even 2 at push between the sprints. And then when he hits the sprints, probably 3, 4, 4.5 up that sprint. So I definitely think he is picking up some points here on the rest of the D riders. But as we've all suggested, it's a bit unknown how each sprint is going exactly, so we'll have to wait and see what comes out then. But at the moment, he's just cruising around 1.2, 1.3, waiting until the next sprint. But we'll just give him a minute, see what he hits there. I mean, he's only doing 1.1 at the moment, as he's coming around. We've got 2 corners, I believe, for the next sprint. And see how it goes. I mean, he is taking this nice and easy. 1.4, 1.5. Let's see if he throws down a power up. You don't get a power up every lap, but I've certainly seen a lot thrown out there. But starting to ramp up a wee bit, but definitely fatigue. It looks like he's got a feather power up, which is perfect for this. 3.5 he's doing. Let's see if he can push up to 4. Not quite sure if he's got that. He's definitely trying, as you said. What's this? Sprint 9, sprint 10. I've lost count. Every rider's probably lost count. They're probably just going around in circles. So putting out the power numbers at the moment, but no idea how he's getting on overall. But looks like he's hitting the sprints. I reckon he's going to catch up quite a few places. As we see, I believe it's David Chandler, I think. Cat B rider, bombing past. So there's certainly still some fast guys out there. How are the other guys looking?
Well, Gordon, sorry.
I was just about to say, Ed Finney, over to you.
Yeah. So we just finished, hit the sprint banner, or the finish banner again for the next lap. Derek didn't improve his time in the last sprint. He did throw out a feather, so that helped him out. A lot of PRs coming over that hill, so these guys are still really pushing hard every lap and improving on their times. Derek's still in 11th place on lap 9, and doing real well, as you said. Just kicking in the juice when he needs to stay with the group, but other than that, they're down in the 2 watts per kilogram through the flat portion of this, trying to conserve energy. We'll be coming up on that sprint here in just a moment. They're rounding one of the final turns before we hit that KOM, and let's see, Derek will probably start kicking it in anytime soon. He's been hitting it hard right at the beginning. There he goes, pushing over 9 watts per kilogram. Let's see how he can hold. He's at 8.3 now, 7.5. Still holding 7.5, 6.8, 6.9, gets a little steeper, 8.2 as he comes up to the top, 7.2, 5. And it does real well. Let's see, did he improve? It doesn't look like he improved on his 6.55, but a real good effort there. Looks like he's getting gapped a little bit by that front group, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hang with them or not. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. So Ben's just gone over another sprint, and he's actually his best sprint time has actually improved from 19.69 to 19.68, but that is down at 18th position on the overall leaderboard. So that does mean that 17 riders have gone faster than him. And one of the things I hadn't really considered on the sprint is because it's a 4% gradient. If you've got a bit of a sprint and you're quite light, you're going to have a fantastic opportunity on this course. So if you are able to hold, let's say, for example, anything over sort of 7 watts a kilo, and you're a lighter rider, then you've got a good chance. So it might not be down to sheer wattage. But Ben is just crossing the line yet again, and we are halfway. We're more than halfway. We've got 8 laps to go on an 18-lap race, and he is still in 6th place. And there is quite a group with him at the moment, a mix of A's, B's, probably a C rider in there. We can see Kevin Flood wheel in front. See George Fordham in there as well, another herder rider in the B categories. Paul Chacareau's still there. Bruce Bortoff's there. Alan Chevel's there. Half the field appears to be in this group at the moment. Gordon, how's the D's doing? How are we getting on?
We're getting on absolutely fine. Jack's just coming around the corner. Yeah, he's just hitting the sprint now. So it looks like he's got another feather power up. So that's at least 2 laps in a row. He's doing well with the Zwift power up gods here. I can see a few riders flying past him. He's holding about 3.2, 3.5 at the moment, which seems to be a sort of steady pace up this sprint. As I said, I'm not sure. I've had a quick brief check on the front group, and they are pushing as well, but they're not doing massively more. So I think he'll be holding his own in the sprints. Overall on the board, he's looking about 8th. So if he manages that overall sort of per lap, take off 1 or 2 riders that probably don't qualify, he's definitely going to make up a few places. He's moved up 1 place on the board to 18th out of 28th now on Zwift. So I believe, and looking at Zwift power, he's probably about 10th place. There's a couple of C riders at the front of the group that we need to ignore. So again, at the moment, he is finding a lot of this race riding on his own, though, so that's probably half intentional. Just cruising around between laps, between 1.5. So taking it easy at the moment. I've lost count of what lap we're on now. We must be on about lap 12 or 13, is it? Or maybe a bit less. I'm not quite sure. We'll see when we hit the banner again in the moment. But the only problem is doing all the work on his own. When I say work, 1 to 1.5 watts. He's found a rider, another D rider just in front of him, Pendleton. As I believe it looks like the A group just bombing past him, although they're not going quite as fast as you expect an A group to normally go. So I suspect they're all playing the game like everyone else here. I can see A's and B's. Max Szymanski's in that group as well. It looks like Ben's passing as well, coming towards the line. So I believe that's probably that large group that you were talking about. Is it, James?
Yes, we're just coming up to the line now. We've got about 200 meters to go, and Ben's just fallen off the back of the group a little bit, but only by probably about 10 meters. Just going over the line now, and we have 7 laps to go, so not a great amount left. So we've got 14k to go, way over halfway now, and Ben's just getting back on the back of this big group. I don't know about you both, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the scores come in as, because I think we could get a couple of surprises in the field. I think my money is on Martin Fuller, who is currently on Zwift Power. He's 6th wheel in C, but I think going from one of Gordon's tips earlier, the normalized power looks very strong. So his average is 266 with normalized power of 327, and he's definitely been up there on the sprints as well. But just on the sprints, looks like last lap Ben put out his best one so far at 18.52, possibly well helped by this group he's managed to get himself into. So this could certainly help him pick up some big points. So we will obviously have to see how it all pans out. We'll have very little idea of who the winner is until all the scores have been processed at the end. But just on another sprint for probably about the 12th time. And everyone's throwing down feathers, everyone's throwing down trucks, everyone's throwing down aero helmets. But Ben's still putting out really big numbers. He's definitely coming back into this, I think. I suspect that was probably another sub 19 second sprint. So we're going to have to see. Ed, how's Derek getting on in the Bs?
Well, Derek is, like I said earlier, he was kind of gapped by the lead group. So he's back here, I wouldn't say by himself. He's got a bunch of C riders around him, a few Bs. He's just hitting the KOM again. He's got a feather. So he's pushing hard, 800 watts. His normalized power is 340. He's got just about the highest normalized power in the group. Still pushing hard up this hill. We'll see if he beats the 16:55 time, which is pretty fast. So that's going to be a tough one to beat, especially this far into the race. Nope. But he's got to be getting tired, right? Like you said, we're probably on lap 10, 11 now, and still considerable amount of race to go. So unfortunately, if he doesn't stick with a group here and get some draft, he's going to have to be wasting a lot of energy just to keep the speed up. So we'll see how it goes. Back to you, James.
Yeah, I think one of the comments from the guys on YouTube is that Derek could possibly work a little bit more on the drafting. Obviously, he's riding his own race. He knows what he's doing, but I think he could definitely get a little bit more advantage from some of the draft. But we'll see how the scores pan out. But Ben is still doing very well to hang in this group with a lot of B riders, a couple of A's, and they'll certainly help him tow himself up the sprint. But he's certainly doing a lot of work himself, pushing big numbers up the cobbles. Certainly seen 700-800 watts quite a few times from him. But yeah, no, Ben's doing a great job. We are just over 10 kilometers to go, and we'll see how it pans out. Gordon, D's.
Yep, back as we were. So Jack, he had quite a good sprint there. It looked like one of the better sprints of the last few laps. So maybe saving himself for a lap or two. I saw him throw down the truck power up and finish. Certainly strong up that sprint. Hit over 4 watts a kilo for a D rider. 39 minutes into a race. That's a pretty good effort. Just briefly touching on your C's, we saw the Martin Green, which been riding with a herd of cheetahs recently, sprinting past Jack on that hill, which is probably my cheeky outsider for the Cat C points as well. Certainly looks like he had a good sprint on them, pushing out 9-10 watts a kilo still at the moment. So that's my outside bet for Cat C. But Jack's still doing good. I mean, he's really taking it easy between the sprints here. 1.1, 1.2, just cruising around. Again, he's not really found anyone to ride with the whole race, although, as I suggested earlier, you don't really need to have anyone to ride with, although it is beneficial if you can get someone just as you're hitting that sprint section. But at the moment, he's probably got another half kilometre before he hits that sprint for the, I don't know what time we're on now, 13th time, maybe 14th time. If anyone has any clue, let me know. But yeah, roughly doing that. He's just managed to stay ahead. There's another rider, Pendleton, is a D rider. So he's actually moved up a couple of places. He's up to 16th. Although it's so hard to tell whether he's actually passed any riders or possibly someone's dropped out. No idea exactly what's going on. But at the moment, he's showing as 16th. And by my rating on Zwift Power, that's probably about 8th overall. So looking good. If he's 8th on Zwift Power, manages to bump up a few from the sprints, he could be pushing towards a podium place. So I said it'll be interesting. We've not really got any idea exactly how the points are going to farm out at the end of this, but we shall see. Just give it a moment. He's just coming around the corner, the second last corner before the last sprint. Well, not the last sprint, but for the next sprint. We'll just see how he goes up this one. He's only cruising at 1.6 at the moment, 1.3. Ramping up to 2, 3, see if he's managed to get a power up. Not seen a power up this time, so had power ups the last few laps, so you can't expect them every lap, but you probably get a power up sort of 70-80% of the time, so any power up is good and bit of use, but still pushing out good numbers, quite consistent every time, 3 to 4 watts per kilo up here, so if you can keep pushing that towards the end, I reckon you'll catch up quite a few places. But yeah, how's the B, C's and A's group that you're watching?
Yeah, it's still pretty huge. And just quickly to note, on the last sprint, Ben knocked 0.7 seconds off his best time from 18.05 down to 17.30. So this he's going to struggle on this one just because he found himself off the front a little bit. So I don't think this will be his best sprint. But certainly in the last one, he paced it perfectly, and the draft was there for him when he needed it the most. So this group is definitely helping Ben. He's currently in third spot in the C's as well, so he's going to score very highly in the GC points. So he's probably looking at about 447, 448, 449. When we finish the race, we're just going to have to see how the primes pan out. But I think the second half of this race has definitely been better for him point wise than the first half. He's still with this group, and they are shifting, probably averaging around about 40, 42 kilometers an hour. Although Ben's not having to hold that much over 2-0, so it's looking pretty good for Ben. We're going to see how it goes. But just stay with me because we're just doing the U-turn before the lap banner, and then we'll see how many we've got left to go. I think we've probably got 4 laps once we cross the banner. So we will see very shortly around the U-turn. You can see the banner in front of us. Still got this big group of A's, B's and C's. The A's are either finding it difficult to get away from everyone else, or they're not particularly bothered and they're just going for the primes. But we are 4 laps to go. Ed Finney, what's going on?
Right now, Derek's on the KOM, threw down a feather. You can see this race is taking this toll. The total watts is quite a bit less than at the very beginning. He's pretty much riding by himself. It's a little bit tough here. Closest rider in front of him is 10 seconds out. So he's having to push pretty hard just to keep the speed up. He's currently in 11th position in the B, so he'll rack up some good GC points. We'll just see how he hangs in there for the next 5 laps and 5 KOMs. But he's doing really well. You know, he is a Cat C rider, and he jumped up to B's just because he's right on that fringe, and he's doing quite well, I think, for a new B rider. So back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. Ben is currently sat in second place in the C's, still with this big group. We are 28 kilometers down, and we have just over 7 to go, and we'll be coming up to the sprint. You guessed it, yet again. And Ben's in a good spot, just at the back of this group. Doesn't have power out this lap round, but he's still putting out 500, 700 watts, high 700s. Pushing up to 800, pushing hard, still going, round the corner and under the banner. And well, that'll be another good time. No improvement on 17.3, but it'll still be a very solid time thanks to his B&A friends just in front of him. So not too far to go. I think we've got 3 sprints left. Under 7K to go now. 41 minutes into the race, 28.7K, and 240 meters of climbing has been completed. Gordon, how's Jack doing?
Well, just hit the sprint again, or KOM. I saw him throwing down the truck power up, although somewhat questionable use of the truck power up. There was not really anyone much in front of him, so I doubt we'd have got much benefit from that. But a couple of riders he passed on the hills, maybe given a brief respite, get some extra power. So he's still putting about the numbers, although you can see the sort of numbers dropping lower and lower, as I suspect all categories do every round. Looking at Zwift power, he appears to be in 9th by Reckitt by my reckoning. As I said earlier, looking at the normalised power is a bit of a cheeky way to try and see what other riders are doing. At the moment, I'd say he's probably, in terms of normalised power, he's probably got the second most skewed figure on that. So there's certainly 1 or 2 riders out there that aren't going for the primes and have got a very low power, normalised power anyway. So I reckon he'll catch up quite a few points. But he's now just cruising around it, just probably about 1 watts a kilo here. I believe he's probably as a good 2 or 3 laps behind that supposed chasing C group that you've been watching. I reckon as he comes round towards the banner, he's still going to have 6 laps to go. So in terms of total time, we're probably looking at probably somewhere around about an hour and 5 minutes maybe. So for the D races, it's probably one of the slightly longer ones being over an hour. So especially with an incentive to go for the primes, you're not really pushing to hit the overall GC time. But We'll just see as he comes through the banner now, and I believe this is actually 6. It might be clocking down to 5. So yeah, 5 laps to go at the moment. But yeah, not so bad. How we doing, Ed? How are the bees?
Well, Derek's out here all by himself. For me, if I was Derek, I'd just keep hanging on this about 2 watts per kilo. The closest guy behind him in a B group is 42 seconds, and the one in front is 24. So if he can just maintain 11th position, not kill himself on the basic flat portion of this course, and just hang on and hit it on the prime, that would be the best option. I know he wants to. Everybody in these races, of course, you want to get your best time for the GC, but in this case, it's not really going to matter much if you can just hang in there about 10th or 11th position and just conserve energy for the sprint and see if he can keep doing. I noticed him, and as well as the rest of the groups there, the power's dropping fast off of what we were hitting at the beginning of the race, and some of them are just struggling to get up and over that hill. We're just now coming into the finish line banner. It looks like we have 4 more laps to go for this race. Back to you guys, James.
Thanks, Ed. So just looking at Ben's position, he is second in the C's, but I think the front C runner is also at the front of this group. So could be a little bit of a sprint on the line at the end of the last lap. Obviously, it will be an awful lot of effort just for that the one solitary point. But we'll see how that pans out. But we are just about to come under the banner for the umpteenth time. And we will see the lap counter tick from 3 down to 2. So we have 2 laps to go, 31.3 kilometres, 4 kilometres to go. Gordon.
So back to Jack. He's right in the middle of the KOM climb at the moment. He's putting out sort of similar numbers, 3 to 3.5 watts per kilo. Looks like he didn't manage to get power up that time, so, and he is all alone. So still hopefully setting a good pace up that climb. So hard to tell with other D riders. I believe he actually might have been lapped by the front D group as well. I can see what looks like probably the front of the D's is John Richardson, although he doesn't appear to be going for the prime. So the front D's are actually still holding 2.526, which is right at the limit of Cat D, which comparing that to Jack, he's down at 1.7. So you can see the difference in the styles of how people are playing this race. Some going for GC, some going for primes. So let's believe this will be his 5th last lap. So he's probably still got another I'd probably say 12 to 15 minutes of riding in Cat D here. Try and grab a few more points in the last few laps. But what we'll also find is the A's and B's that have passed him already, they'll start disappearing as they finish. I believe the C's, I think you said there was only a couple of laps left, so they will start to drop out at the moment. But no, looking good again. Back to the usual. He's dropped down to 1.1, 1.2. But how is Ben? I believe he's on the sprint now, is he?
Yeah, he is second last sprint. Won't be his fastest. He's holding down about 600 watts rather than sort of 7s and 8s that we have seen him do. So looks like he's definitely tiring a bit, and no real surprise after 16.5 laps of this route with sprints every single lap. It's a bit of an ask for anyone. But he's still with this group. Still in second place in the C's, and I did say that I thought the front C was actually in this group. That they're in the group just in front. About 5 seconds up the road, so still pretty close, and we can still see them just up the road. An enormous group in front, and we may well even join on at some stage before the finish banner of the last lap. But maybe not. But at the end of the day, it's only 1 point, whereas we've got 900 points up for grabs across the 18 primes. So just about to come round the big hairpin before we start the final lap, and that'll be about 1.93 kilometers to go. And you can see the banner now, and very shortly it will tick down from 2 to 1, and we will be over the banner in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last lap. Off we go. Ed, how are the bees doing?
Well, Derek's still hanging in there. Again, you can see the suffering on that KOM. That's got to be horrible. He's still got 3 laps to go here. He's on the third to the last lap. Currently out in the flat portion, just past the finish banner. Still a ways to go before we hit that KOM. He's drafting off of Corrado. Heck, I can't say it. One of the C riders trying to get a little relief there. So he's playing it smart. He's just hanging about 2.5 watts a kilo and cruising through here. So he's riding his time for the sprint, and we'll just have to see how this plays out. It's any man's game here. I couldn't tell you who's ahead with all this carnage. So back to you, James.
Yep, thanks, Ed. So I think we'll probably just stay with this group until they finish the race. We're at 33.8 kilometers to go. Sorry, gone. So we've got 1.5 to go. We may almost finish this within 50 minutes, which shows quite how quickly this has gone. Maybe not quite 50 minutes, but definitely 51. And we've got someone throwing down an arrow quite early on, whereas the rest of them are now throwing down arrows now as we hit the sprint. So sprint for the very, very last time. Ben's having another good crack at this. High fives, low sixes, 5.5 watts per kilo, 6 watts per kilo, round the corner for the last time, and over we go. So all the sprints, or should I say all the prime sprints are now done. He has a C rider just in front of him, 2 seconds up the road. I think it's Martin Green, 1 second up the road. He's trying to push to get back onto this group, fighting for that last point. We can see the finish banner now. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. That's the prime banner. So we are down to the final kilometre now, just heading over the rollers. And we just had our first glimpse of the finish banner for the very, very last time. Last couple of rollers, and then we'll hang a left, and then we will do a U-turn at the end of this sort of straight with a little wiggle in the middle. Over the wiggle, and then we've got the hairpin for the last time. I don't think Ben's quite going to catch up with Martin. Has he got anything just to push hard for the line? Is it worth it? Probably not, but he's going to push anyway. 300 watts, 350, and over the line we go. Well done, Ben. Great effort. I think actually, for all that I said earlier on, Ben's actually played this really well. I thought his first few laps, the sprint maybe wasn't quite there compared to some of the lighter riders, but he caught on to and hung on to a very fast group for certainly probably about 8 laps or so, and that's done him well. So we'll see how the points pan out. Ed, how far have the B's got to go?
Well, Derek he's got 2 laps to go. He's in with the main group again. Looks like they actually lapped him. So even though he's 12th position in the B's, the first 11 guys, when they took off and split off from him, have actually lapped Derek and the rest of the group on this. So Derek's hanging with this group. This is going to help Derek out. Instead of doing about 35 kph, he's doing 40 plus. They're coming up on the KOM right now. We'll see what happens. Everybody's going hard. Let's see. I see feathers flying out, and Derek is throwing down some good watt numbers. I think this give him a little bit of incentive here. When you're by yourself, it's tough to push yourself real hard. So they're all pushing hard up and over this hill, trying to improve on their prime time. No improvement over his overall time, but he is hanging with the group. So still in the flat. So let's see what happened with Gordon.
Yeah, so back to Jack, or touching on the C's there, as you say, Ben was trying to chase down, I think, Martin Green. I believe Ben was probably actually a couple of laps ahead of Martin, so that probably didn't make much difference at all there. But back on Jack, he's hitting the climb again for, I don't know what time, he probably still got 3 laps to go here, but he's got a feather power up. Hitting at good numbers again. He started off sort of 4 watts a kilo, 5 watts, but he has slowed up a wee bit. I can see, I don't know looks like Martin Green ahead of him, still hitting 7 or 8 watts, so he's still good going in the C category. So, but Jack's hit another good sprint there, I reckon. Probably still got decent points on that one. Overall on the board, he is showing his 5th, so I believe that's probably is from his very first lap. But time will tell how he's done on the rest of the sprints. But he's certainly been, I believe, playing this right. taking it easy between the sprints and then hitting them as hard as he can, and using the power ups where and often. He's had a lot of power ups. I've seen everyone's had a lot of power ups. You get a power up every lap here, so if you're going to get a power up 78% of the time, it's worth using on that sprint. But sitting at 30 kilometers, which I think the total distance is about 35, is it, James? Somewhere around that. So he's probably got, I make it probably at least 2 laps after this still to go. It might even be 3 laps. So at the moment we're seeing the riders starting to drop off. So there's definitely less riders out on the course here as the C's and the B's and the A's that are going a wee bit quicker and finishing him. But he's up to 15th overall on Zwift, and on Zwift Power I'll probably make him about 8th or 9th in the D's. So not too bad. And looking at the competition as well and going for primes, I believe he'll be doing all right. There's a couple of riders up ahead. Looks like Jacob Hitchner. He's just going on his normalized power type figure. It's looking like a lot of red, so I suspect he'll be sprinting. He's actually got the fastest time for the lap as well. So I believe he'll definitely got a good number of points here on the sprint section. So it'll be interesting to see how this measures out at the end. As the front D's, it looks like John Richardson has finished as we're passing the banner with 2 laps to go. So
let's just quickly switch over to Ed for the conclusion of Derek's ride in the B's.
So Derek is running up on the KOM right now. He's hitting it hard, over 800 watts. This is his last KOM, so I think he's going to throw everything he's got at it. So going up here 697. There's a little bit of steepness and drops of watts, but he's up and on it. Still going. Kevin Frudd just went by. He's a herd cat A rider, and no improvement on the KOM time, but still doing really well. Pushing hard. He's coming around and head into the rollers here shortly. Not pushing real hard. He's pushing 1.7 watts per kilo. He's solid in 12th, 13th position. He's got Simo right behind him, a B cat rider. So they'll be riding together. We're just coming into the what I call the rollers, kind of the whoop-de-whoops before we come into the hairpin turn before the finish banner. Derek's going to hang with this other B cat rider, probably going to make sure he wants to finish in front of that person. Of course, they could be lapped. Heck, it's hard to say what lap any of these guys are on for that matter. So we're coming up to the hairpin turn here shortly. Just about to round it out. Looks like Kevin Frudd is long gone. He took off. He does have King of the Mountain jersey on. And Derek is not pushing real hard, 2.8. He's just going to cruise into this final banner and finish in 12th position. As far as Zwift goes, probably about 11th or 12th as far as Zwift Power goes. So that's the end of that race, and great job to get to Derek on that. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed, and well done to Derek. And we go back to Gordon to see how Jack's getting on.
Doing all right. He's just hit the sprint again for, I believe, I think he might have 2.5 laps to go probably after this. So he's hit the sprint again. He put sort of similar sort of numbers up here, 3.5 watts per kilo up the sprint. He's been very consistent on his way up the sprint. We'll just have to wait and see how we get on going out there. But certainly the riders are reducing out on course. Looking at the D riders around him, there is a one, actually I believe the Jacob Hitchner's about to lap. He's about 5 seconds on the map behind him, but he is actually lapping him on the course. So looking in front, there's another rider 29 seconds ahead, but on this sort of distance of a lap, it's going to be very hard to catch up that sort of distance. So I believe we've got about 2 laps to go at the moment, but looking good while we've got another few minutes. I don't know if James, if you want to tell us what's coming up for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so coming up next week, we will have Magnificent 8, which is a very largely flat course with got the hilly KOM in there just for once, and the rest of it's pretty much flat. Then we have the weekend after, we've got Petit Boucle, which will be 61 kilometers with, I think we've got 4 climbs and 2 sprints in that. So that'll be week 9. And then finally, get your champagne ready because it'll be 6 laps of the Champs-Élysées, which is about 43k. So that'll be a nice way to round out the series. So 3 races to go after this weekend. And then we will head to our last series of the summer, Series 3, before we go back to the herd beginner races for the winter. And if you haven't done any of those before, they are generally shorter ones of probably 15 to 20 kilometers. So generally you're looking at sort of half an hour efforts. So get your spinning legs out and come and join everyone. They'll be different to this series in that there won't be any primes, but it'll be a mass start for all categories, all starting at the same time in the same category where the categories will be marked after the race. So that'll be something to look forward to and that'll probably be 6 months from, I imagine it's going to be probably October through to the beginning of April. So something to look forward to. And I think Jack is probably on his final lap with about 2 kilometers to go.
Not sure if this is the final lap or penultimate lap. He's on about 33k, which I believe the finish is possibly
35.2.
35.2. So yeah, this must be the last. I think he's 33.7 at the moment. He's just coming around the second last corner before the sprint. So we'll see what sort of effort he can put out here. He's just rolling up around 200 watts, 2 watts per kilo at the moment. Just see if he's going to ramp up. And as we see him no power up going down, so it looks like he's not got a power up this lap. Certainly fatigue kicking in. He's only we see the feather power up going down now. So as he pushes his numbers up to 3.5, see if he can hold a wee bit more. Not quite sure. Yeah, definitely fatigue is kicking in here, but yeah, good number still. 3.5 up the sprint. At the moment is showing 15th place as he goes under the KOM arch. So we'll have to see how that does overall on the sprints. But as I said, I reckon he'll caught quite a few places. Whether he's done enough to actually hit the podium, I'm not quite sure. It's so hard to tell on this laps. I suppose when he was riding himself, he can probably see a bit more how his lap times do. You do get the board to show your 18 lap times on the side to see if you've been improving or at least holding. Generally, if you're not dropping too much between each lap, you're normally doing all right. Normally getting good return on your sprints. We're still seeing some good numbers out there. There's other numbers. There's A-riders out there even still hitting red and orange numbers. So I suspect some or even the higher categories have taken it very easily and are just going for the sprints. But as we're heading for the rollers, we shall hopefully be finished in just about 30 seconds as he comes around the last corner. But 34.5k, which, as I suggested, an hour and 5 minutes. It's about right for the D riders. The fastest Ds maybe were just slightly under the hour, but I believe they were going at full pace. So I think he's played this right at the moment, taking it easy between the sprints. But final hairpin before we come round towards the line and hopefully just finish under the 1 hour and 6 minute timer. And then we'll just have to wait and see for the race director to work out the points and see how we do with the primes, which will be pretty interesting to see how the primes compare to the actual overall race positions and see what's happening. But hopefully he's on 1 lap, and is that him finished? 34.9. What's the total distance? I believe, is that him finished? That is him finished as he's easing up to 0 watts a kilo. So very good job. Good racer from all. But yeah, back to you, James.
Thanks, Gordon, and thanks as ever to Damon for the pictures we've been able to bring to you tonight. The next streamed race will most likely be me on Sunday afternoon, so 18 sprints are paying for me. Thanks as ever to my co-commentary team of Ed Finney and Gordon Sloan. Thanks to our racers, Derek, Ben and Jack, and thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks very much. Good night.